So thank you everyone for joining this presentation. So my name is Jean-Michel Couture. I'm a partner and senior consultant at Groupe AGECO out of Montreal, and I'm also a board member at Social Value Canada, SVC. So today we have the opportunity to have Emilien Gruel, knowledge advisor at TS, to present us a presentation on the strength of the TS approach and how to access our tools and resources, which are plentiful. So this presentation is part of our Made in Canada series, which objective is actually to showcase and learn more about Canadian organizations, initiatives, and resources dedicated to social value creation. So such an objective is definitely aligned with our mission at Social Value Canada, which is to actually strive to be a national hub to connect Canadians, learn and exchange ideas about social impact, social value creation, and measurement methodology. So now, enough about SVC. Let's move to our guest speaker, Emilien. So, short introduction. Emilien has been working in the social economy and social innovation field for the last 10 years now, and he has a knowledge transfer advisor at TS since 2014. So his main area of focus are crowdfunding, community bonds, the commons, and the social impact evaluation, all of which, or most of which, we will be addressing today in this presentation. So based on this background and experience and expertise, he will be presenting us his work at TS over the last 3 years. And this presentation will last for about 40 minutes. This will be made in English, but if you have any questions, please feel free to share them with us in the chat box, whether in French or in English, and Emilien will be pleased to answer them after his presentation. So now, Emilien, the mic is yours.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jean-Michel, for this introduction. Thanks to Social Value Canada to allow TS to present its work. I'm very glad to be here with you. It's a small committee, but it's good the presentation will be recorded so it can be eventually used for other opportunities. So I have a lot to tell you, so I propose to dive in right away. Everything is okay? You hear me well? Yeah, okay. So I'll start with a little TS 101, just a few minutes, because I think it's important you understand what TS does to better understand what we did on social impact measurement. Then I'll lay out the context of this 3-year project, the project itself, what did we do, how we did it. I'll speak then about our main conclusions, what's our take, essentially, on evaluation and social impact measurement. Concretely, what do we leave behind? And I'll end my presentation with some recommendations that could become commitments if you decide to sign the Montreal Declaration that we produced last spring. So, yes. TS means innovative territories in social and solidarity economy. Basically, why did we create TS about 6 years ago? For several reasons. We just realized 2 things. First, social economy and at the first row, social economy enterprises are producing a lot of innovation. It doesn't mean they wake up in the morning telling themselves, I'm going to innovate. They just face challenges and try to solve them, and while doing so, they come up with new solutions and innovative ways of dealing with this. There's a lot of knowledge being created in the academic world, but just as much on the field by practitioners. And we think both these types of knowledge are important, but the problem is that this knowledge is scattered, it does not circulate sufficiently, and most importantly, it is underused. We can actually argue that knowledge that's not being used is just information. And I'll come back to it in the way we see knowledge transfer. So 6 years ago, we created TIES based on 10 years of collaboration between universities, research centers, and communities and social economy networks. It was within a program called the University Community Research Alliance. And it's important to understand because TIES was really not born out of nothing. There was already a lot of experience of collaboration between what became our network. And TIES is firstly a network, and I shall say a network of networks. We were created by the Chantier de l'Économie Sociale, the umbrella organization of the social economy in Quebec, and CRISIS, which is the Research Center for Social Innovation, and many other partners, both from the academic world and practitioners, ecosystem of support to social economy enterprises, solidarity finance networks, sectorial network of enterprises, etc. We offer all these members someone maybe should stop its mic. We offer all these members a space for collaboration to exchange and co-construct knowledge. So essentially, you could see TIES as a think tank or maybe more a knowledge hub for social transformation, except we don't do advocacy, which is an activity that's often associated with think tank. That is the role of Le Chantier de l'Économie Sociale. Our main functions are one of BAY. This is really hard to translate. BAY means basically being awake. So it means like keeping your eyes open to new trends, innovations, being on the watch. It's like kind of related to business intelligence, so on. So, but I'll stick to the French term because it's impossible to really translate. It's our base and liaison, connecting people together, and our permission transfer. So they, as I said, identifying needs, trends, innovations, then gathering actors, players, and knowledge. Connecting these people together is the first step for knowledge transfer to happen. And then knowledge transfer, clarifying, documenting these innovations, or these trends. You know, it's not necessarily really a specific innovation like community bonds. The work we did on social impact measurements was more about the trend. You'll see what I'm talking about. And systematizing, co-constructing that knowledge, and eventually making sure as many actors as possible on the field make this knowledge theirs and use it to transform their practice. And that's when we believe knowledge transfer has happened, when you change the way you do things. Okay, enough about TIES. What was the context of our work? So I'm not going to tell you anything new. Social impact measurement is on everybody's lips. There's a big buzz, and actors in the field, social economy enterprises, networks are left with a lot of questions. What method should I use? What are the best indicators? Etc. That's one set of questions. Another one would be, why should I do that? Should I do it at all? Who should help me doing that? So with whom should I do it? And why? And for what purpose? So that's another set of questions, and I differentiate these two. You'll see why, because for us, these two ways of thinking about social impact measurements just show different visions, and that's why we started our project because we thought there were different ways to undertake evaluation, and that there was a lot at stake for the social economy, meaning either a lot to gain or a lot to lose. And that's why we started this project. So we had a strong feeling, as I said, that it was closely related to identitary questions, meaning when you evaluate something, you look at it and the action of value, of trying to think about its value and then making decisions based on that process will participate in defining the future of that object. And so we felt strongly that we needed to be defining ourselves before being defined by others. And after 3 years of work, I can tell you more in detail why we think that's important, and because we all together built that common vision through the Montreal Declaration. We consider that evaluative approaches are currently subject to a prevalent trend that sometimes causes the evaluations to be defined and controlled without consulting the actors concerned. A trend that drives some organizations to focus their actions on the objectives of the evaluation, sometimes to the detriment of their fundamental mission. A trend that often favors standardization instead of flexible and context-specific approaches. And finally, and that is to me very important, a trend that generally attributes more value to results than processes, forgetting that processes themselves generate effect. I'm just going to pause here because I've been working on this issue for 3 years, and to me, that's the main takeaway, is that when we talk about impact, in the end, we talk about, okay, what are the best organizations? What's good, what's not as good, what's bad, and this is very closely related to moral philosophy in the end. It's how do you define what's good or what's bad? And moral philosophy has clearly 2 ways of defining that. It's either you look at what it produces, the results, the impact, that is the consequentialism movement. It's started by Jeremy Bentham. It's utilitarianism, and that's important, that's fine. Then the second way was more about looking at the way you do it. And that's Emmanuel Kant that brought it. How you do things. And I mean, if you lie, if you kill, whatever, no matter how many lies you save, well, maybe it's not so good. So, okay. Why do I tell you that? It's because we believe that we're in a society where there's a very big focus on utilitarianism. And we forget that also the way you do things is important. And why it is important to the social economy? Because the social economy is not defined by what we do. It's active in all sectors of the economy. It's defined by how we do it. Being democratically governed, the way we distribute profits, etc. Okay. So it goes back to a lot of sayings, like the Confucius one. What's important is the path, not the destination. Things like that. Okay, I'll just come down to earth, but it was important for me to say. So this trend I was talking about present a risk for the social economy and the development model to which it wishes to contribute. A transformation of financial mechanisms is already at work, but the choices of what actions or interventions to take are based more on how easy they are to evaluate rather than on their relevance to real needs. These evaluations can also have consequences for the organizations that are evaluated, including cherry-picking strategies which target low-risk populations and the selection of substitution of objectives, which may distort their work and their mission. They risk leading to a homogenization or leveling of practices that slows down the dynamic of innovation. And finally, when they're well conducted, evaluation processes are, on the contrary, a powerful guide for action that will enable the social economy to reinforce its identity, reaffirm its political project, and improve its practice. So, based on that take on the context, again, this is written after the 3 years of work. Of course, our idea wasn't that clear 3 or 4 years ago. But based on that feeling that we wanted to define ourselves before being defined by others, we started this 3 years capacity building project based on knowledge co-construction. Just going to look at I'm doing time. So, 3 main objectives. Clarify the notion, or I should say the notions, facilitate decision-making, and build a common vision. We did it in the same way, within our mandate of pay, liaison, and knowledge transfer. We started, as we often do, when we tackle a new domain or a new project, with an extensive knowledge synthesis. We had actually someone very bright that was stolen to us by the UN after to work on the same topic. That did a review of over 800 resources and sum up a lot of them and built the base of our work. Then we co-constructed transfer tools, essentially our micro website that's online on TS's website. It's important to say that we just finally noticed that within the social finance and social innovation federal strategy, the translation and adaptation of all these tools and these micro websites will be financed and will happen in the next few months. Even though these tools are in French, they will be translated and they will be adapted to the rest of Canada. So, based on that knowledge synthesis, we brought together through a dozen of focus groups with experts from the field, from the academia, with networks, with social economy enterprises, to test the content we wanted to produce to help people understand better this field, make the right decisions, turn themselves toward the right resources. We also held 6 half-a-day meeting with a community of practice we started with 20 enterprises, but there's about a dozen that completed the whole sequence. Again, to make sure we could understand their needs and own these tools to their needs. Of course, a lot of collaboration. I'm not going to cite here all the projects and players, but we were in touch throughout the 3 years with people from coast to coast in Canada, from Belgium, from France, from most major projects that we're working on this. And today we're still collaborating with the Common Approach project here. actually leaving on Friday to northern France to sign a transatlantic declaration based on the Montreal Declaration with a European project that's closing. And anyhow, yeah, lots of activities. We participate in lots of activities of dissemination. And finally, appropriation through collective action, meaning all these players, I mentioned what kind, academic practitioners, that took part in our activities themselves got to make this knowledge theirs, and it helped them and their network to navigate better this complicated domain. And that was even more true for the co-writing of the Montreal Declaration. And I know that for a fact because I was the hand being pulled in every direction by the main signatories, the 6 organizations that co-wrote it. But that's through this type of collective action that really you can build a common vision. And you can make sure the knowledge that people that these organizations get is common vision. Okay, main conclusions. So when actors on the field are standing at the evaluation crossroads, they're facing a lot of tough questions with no easy answers. And most importantly, with no one best answer. There is no best method, in our view, both optimal and universal for those who are questioning their impact and more broadly their value. And actually, by the way, I think we should be happy that there is no one best way to value things and people. Because I don't want to make a judgment here, but if you have one definitive answer to this very tough question of how you value things and actions and organizations, well, very soon that would let other opinions. So, if there's no one answer, means there's a lot of choices, and the answers you bring to these questions can take you to many directions. What should I evaluate exactly? Who should decide how this evaluation is being conducted? Who should participate in this process of evaluation? How and by whom the results of the evaluation are going to be used, and for what purpose? So all these choices, according to how they're going to be made, can take us in multiple directions. And because there's no one answer, the different stakeholders can have diverging opinions, and some power relationships may take place. And you understand then that we are completely in politics. And I think you may have noticed that I like to use the word evaluation. I prefer it to measurement because I believe that not everything can be measured. And often what cannot be measured has often the most value. And that is why we need the term evaluation. For things that have value but cannot be measured. So we are here not merely talking about the best techniques to measure stuff or actions. We are discussing ways of making a judgment. Yes, as rigorous and as rigorous as possible, but still a judgment on the value of things and actions. I just want to highlight the high degree of subjectivity and complexity of this endeavor, which is too often overlooked. I believe we must be very humble in front of what's possible and what's not in the field. Social impact evaluation is always a matter of power and politics. Methods, indicators, is just the tip of the iceberg. Bearing this in mind, the main challenge we're facing today on this matter is the depoliticization of the social field. And this trend is instrumented by the belief in the existence of some universal method that is going to show us the best interventions and organizations from the bad ones. What is good from what is bad? Going back to my little apartheid on moral service. So these ethical questions are far from new. Providing an answer to these questions is a lot more related to matters of politics, as I said, than it is to some scientific holy grail method or technique. We should be very careful when facing something or somebody telling us that there is one definite answer to what's good or bad, or to use the current utilitarian vocabulary to what has social impact and what doesn't. In front of the depoliticization of the social field, we need to promote once again democratic values. Since there is no way everybody is going to agree upon what has value and what doesn't, let's make sure everybody's voice is heard by the ones that are closest to what's being evaluated, the one that implements its social actions or interventions. Okay, so now let's be a little more concrete. That's the main takeaway. It's all about politics, and we want it to be democratic the way we approach evaluation. Now, after 3 years, what do we leave behind? Mainly, it's these knowledge synthesis catered to the needs that we try to cater to the needs of practitioners, and also actually academia. A lot of professors that took part in the project and also didn't take part, but are using these concepts. So you find on these microsites a lot of stuff on methods and indicators, on the vocabulary that's being used in the domain, on the history of evaluation of social impact measurement. I'll come back to the VAE in a moment. And of course, a lot of sections on the stakes, what can be gained, what can be lost, the negative effect that I briefly mentioned earlier of social impact measurement, and so on. Then again, it will all be translated, adapted, because we have a section, for instance, to who does what. So far, it's who does what in Quebec. It will be adapted to the rest of Canada. I'm going to go very quickly on that. This is the kind of content. So, of course, logic model, you're familiar with this. Emphasizing that there's not only impact that can be evaluated, you can look at the needs, the relevance of the objectives you set, efficiency, effectiveness, process, yet again, process, etc. You can do it to learn, you can do it to distinguish yourself, to find the partnership, etc. It can be fairly cheap and fairly easy. We want to desacralize evaluation, but if you do that, and you may learn things, you may, on that basis, do better after, but you probably won't do social impact measurement. You probably won't look at the causality between your intervention and some long-term effect if you do it with little resources and fairly quickly. On the other hand, it can be done with a very rigorous scientific approach, but that will cost money. We classify the methods according to what you actually want to do, reporting, improving your intervention, demonstrating your impact, etc. We also classify them by activities, outcome, output, impact. This is just to give you a rough idea. So that's it. You can browse the microsite. I was talking about the VAE. So we created this platform, PathFed. It wasn't created specifically for this project, but it's one of the projects for which it came very handy. To be quick about it, it's kind of a Facebook of the social transformation, except without gathering new data. It's managed as a common. So far it's incubated at Yale, but it could eventually have its own democratic governance. And it allows people to post actualities about on this matter, social impact analysis. Could be another domain. We have many what we call communities of practice on the platform. And for us, it was a good way because it also works as kind of a Dropbox. As Facebook doesn't really allow you to do that, but there's an archiving system in this platform. So you'll find out of the 800 resources I mentioned, about 150 that we deemed important, classified by handbooks, case studies, tools, research, reports, and we also made a specific category of what really we think you shouldn't miss. And now it's still being used to update all these resources. You can comment, you can like, etc. As I said, it's kind of similar to Facebook. There's on the community on evaluation and impact measurement, there's over 800 members right now with 196 posts. And finally, the Montreal Declaration, which is still out there to be signed. We actually just got a signature from the Social and Solidarity Economy Forum, International Forum, which is one of the main international organizations for social and solidarity economy. It was signed by dozens, I should say, of organizations and dozens of individuals. And I will come back to exactly what we say in a minute. So what are our recommendations and commitments? These recommendations are turning into commitments if you sign the declaration. But what are they based on everything I said earlier? So we think a good evaluation is an evaluation that will be useful to the organization that is evaluated and to those it intends to serve through its activity. A rigorous evaluation must be participatory, collaborative, and involve all stakeholders concerned with the process. Remember what I was saying about giving a voice to everybody on deciding what has value and what less value? Well, that's it. It has to be participatory. It is preferable that evaluation approaches focus more on learning. We understand that reporting is important, necessary, sometimes mandatory, but ideally, and that's also a call out to founders, evaluation should be about looking at what you did, understanding what could be improved, and changing your practice. The needs and interests of funders should not take precedence over those of stakeholders, including producers and users of goods and services. Investments in the social economy must not make it dependent on impact measurement. Impact measurement. in order to retain investors, as is the case with social impact funds. So we take a firm stance in this declaration on social impact funds that we think is a mechanism that could take us in the wrong direction. There are no universal tools, indicators, or methods. I think I made it clear in my presentation. The evaluation process must follow from the context, the needs and aspirations, the objectives and activities of an organization. In other words, it must be flexible and adapt to the objectives of the organization being evaluated. Special attention must be paid to the relationship between the challenges of evaluation and the means implemented, dedicated human and financial resources. Funders ought to bear the cost of this process if they impose requirements to measure social impact. And finally, we are committed to continue to strengthen evaluation networks to ensure that social economy enterprises have access to appropriate expertise and support. Our goal is to allow them to learn and improve in line with their practices. It's funny, I was just 5 minutes before entering the webinar talking with one of the partners of the project that has been doing social impact measurements for the past 20 years. And they're producing now a 6 hours online training, and they're going to base it very much on our content. We're going to collaborate to make sure this common vision is shown in this training. And we're working currently to make sure social economy enterprises can benefit from support on these matters outside of what we produce. So this has to be done with all the partners of the social economy systems, because our mandate is knowledge transfer. There's some stuff we don't do. We don't do training, direct training to social economy enterprises, direct coaching on evaluation, for instance, we don't do. So everything we will do in the future on this matter has to be done with, in collaboration with all the players we were already working with during this period. I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully I can clarify some more stuff with the Q&A session. Thank you.